This FedGov Today program is sponsored by Maximus. On this edition of FedGov Today, the Secret Service turbocharges its modernization effort, the legacy modernization mix for critical infrastructure providers, and a big milestone for energy's Gen AI journey. Welcome to FedGov Today in Washington, D.C. and around the world on the American Forces Network. I'm Francis Rose. The Secret Service is looking for artificial intelligence experts to join the agency now. Secret Service says it views AI as an important part of its modernization strategy. Chris Kraft is the Chief Information Officer at the Secret Service. Chris, welcome. It's great to have you on the program. What are you looking for skills-wise, and how are you integrating them into the workforce at the Secret Service?
So I think that this is a great opportunity for Secret Service to bring in AI experts, and really what we're looking for is people that are passionate about our mission and that can bring in their AI expertise to really transform the agency and help us leverage this technology.
I think there's a lot of focus among folks who don't know, like folks maybe who are potential employees for you, a lot of focus on the protection mission of Secret Service, maybe not as much on the other mission areas of service, financial services and security and so on. What areas in that respect are you looking for folks to come into the agency?
We're really looking for experts across all of our different focus areas, including protection, investigation, some of the back office capabilities like HR and finance. How can we get efficiencies there? The way that I look at it is there's efficiencies that we're looking to gain and operational capabilities. Some of the operational capabilities are where AI can give us transformative capabilities that we cannot otherwise get, like facial recognition, being able to see things that officers and agents can't see, and perceive threats that that we're not able to at the same scale.
How do you evaluate potential use cases and try to eliminate the risk of doing AI for AI's sake, but think about it from a problem-solving perspective?
I think that's it's a very important thing when you're looking at a limited amount of resources and time. Where do we focus? I have found that by piloting use cases and seeing where there's value, and then focusing on those where there seems to be a return and iterating quickly. So if we're not going to be successful, let's figure that out quickly and let's move on. And also focusing on those use cases where we can get large-scale benefits, not just in one isolated area, but across a broader range of the enterprise.
How do you get feedback from your team about the thing, and not just the team in the CIO shop, all across the agency, about what they're finding useful and what they're not finding useful, so that you can focus on the things that are really working?
Yeah, and that's where it's critical to have mission partners that are integrated in with our teams, that are letting us know what do they need from this technology, and then how is the technology helping them in their operational capabilities or in their day-to-day work.
You were pretty important in standing up the AI Corps at DHS headquarters when you were there before you came to the Secret Service. Eric Heisen ran that in the last administration. How does that inform the way that you're going about building an AI-focused workforce inside the Secret Service?
At DHS, there were a lot of great lessons learned where we went out and hired 50 AI experts, and we had so many amazing individuals that joined the team from organizations like Google and Meta, and it was really encouraging to see how many people are motivated by the mission, and how many dispelled that myth that we cannot get the best of the best AI experts within the federal government, which I fully believe that we can. And as I look at Secret Service and what we're trying to do, and encouraged by how many people become passionate about our mission. And we have, I believe, one of the best missions in government, and we can use this technology to turbocharge what we need to do. What I would say to people when I first joined is, I don't have a badge, I don't have a gun, but I have AI superpowers, and with that, we can make everybody more effective in the agency.
How do you exchange those ideas that you talked about across the agency now that you're at the bureau level with some of the other components, with HQ? I imagine there's a pretty robust ecosystem of information going back and forth.
Yeah, I think that's really critical in the federal space, is for us to collaborate and work together. In a lot of cases, we are trying to address similar challenges. So within DHS, there's strong collaboration across our different organizations, but also across the federal government. How can we learn from each other? How can we leverage the capabilities that other organizations have developed and just accelerate all of our capabilities?
You've listed as one of your priorities balancing cybersecurity while ensuring agency personnel have the tools and technology they need. What's the tech that's helping, not just AI, that's helping people in the service do their jobs best right now, in your view?
Well, I think there's so much technology that goes into supporting our mission, and one of the things that I've done in the first year is really try to get to know the people in their operational environment, so not from the headquarters perspective within our Washington, D.C. office, but actually where's the work being done in the field, and what are the capabilities that people need to do their job. And from there, trying to ensure that on the technical side that we can provide the capabilities where they're needed, when they're needed, and reliably, and then how do we accelerate the artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies.
You're coming up on a year since you became the acting CIO, now the permanent CIO at Secret Service. What have you learned in that time as you go out and talk to people in the field that maybe you didn't expect, maybe you wouldn't have thought of when you came in the door the first day?
Yeah, I think there's been a long list of things that that I've learned over the last year, and really a lot of people in our organization aren't familiar with some of the capabilities that we have today. And I tell people that if I had everyone stop developing new capabilities for 2 months and we just trained on everything that we have today, the organization would think that we've done more in those 2 months than we've ever done, because we're actually helping empower people to use the technology. So I think that that's really important. How do we train and orient people? Another thing that I've done over the last year is try to illustrate for the organization where are we with artificial intelligence and what is the art of the possible. And I've learned over the last year just how impactful this technology can be just in so many different areas, and really encouraged by that, and then also see opportunity for us to continue to grow.
We have a little bit more than a minute left. One of the things that your team relies on is mobile devices, like every other organization. The Inspector General at DHS made some recommendations to you recently about improving the mobile device posture of the agency. How are you moving out on what the IG's recommended to you, and how are you improving the way that the agency manages mobile devices?
Mobile communications are absolutely critical to the operations of the Secret Service, and that's been a focus area of mine since I started over the last year on how do we ensure that the technology that our officers and agents rely on works consistently and in all environments. And things that we have done is look at different providers, and we have looked at providing dual SIM capabilities so that we have redundant capabilities, looked at the applications that are available on our phones, and how do we increase that number of available applications so that the officers and agents can do their job and have the tools that they need. So that is an ongoing focus area, and I think that we've made tons of progress, and it's an area that we'll continue to focus on.
Chris, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You can read more about the Secret Service on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the legacy modernization mix for critical infrastructure providers. FedGov Today continues in just a moment.
Innovation doesn't wait, and neither do we. At Maximus, we solve problems, streamlining operations, delivering solutions at speed and scale that drive measurable results. From strategy to execution, we simplify complexity, building trust through expertise and innovative technology. Every service, every time. Efficient government delivered. We don't follow innovation. We drive it. Maximus.
What we're working on are AI tools that aren't AI searches. It's really AI workers. Because what you want someone that's doing the work for you, but you have to have someone that's training that right, building that right. So you're empowering users with the extra investigators, the extra analysts that they need to make this happen.
Welcome back. You heard Chris Kraft tell you how the Secret Service is taking on modernization of legacy systems. Leaders from agencies across the government describe that modernization as one of their highest priorities. Kynan Carver is Vice President of Cybersecurity at Maximus. Kynan, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. How are you seeing agencies approaching that nexus of modernization and cybersecurity? Your area of expertise is energy infrastructure. What does that look like in that area in particular?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you probably are aware, the energy infrastructure is both dated and somewhat modern. And that's really the crux of the problem ultimately is how does cybersecurity really protect some of the OT, other technology, in that sector, because some of that technology predates some of the modernization standards. And so with that, that creates a really interesting, problem for, like I said, cybersecurity and how really threat actors can exploit some of that old technology. So holistically in the past, what you've seen from threat actors is essentially, they really just are searching for some of the vulnerabilities. They can go to those lists on the internet and say, like the CVEs, for example, and say like, oh, well, I found this vulnerability. Let's use this execution path. But with OT, that doesn't really exist because some of the infrastructure may just be that old. Mm-hmm. So what you're seeing is really the threat actors really getting into that information. As soon as they discover what kind of OT it is, then they use AI and other technology to really dig into what that looks like. And then from there, doing that copious amount of research, they can actually start finding those exploits. And as you can imagine, like those exploits, because of that old technology, are pretty easily accessible. And so what essentially the critical infrastructure is starting to do is how do they, again, either do some type of transcription where it's protecting that at the boundary level, or do they simply, modernize those OT software or hardware to meet current standards? And so that's really what you're seeing as it plays out in the industry.
One of the things that energy infrastructure has in common with other sectors that the federal government deals with is the federal government doesn't own it. So they're interacting with organizations that have, I'm sure, a widely varying degree of security postures and risks. What does that mean for the agencies that interact with those organizations and how they have to think about data they're providing, so on?
Like you mentioned, these are private companies, and we as a federal government can't levy the same kind of requirements as the federal government itself can. So what you're seeing is more of an adoption to standards, and that's being encouraged by the government to adopt these standards like ISO standards, the NIST standards that the government puts a lot of money into developing. And then from there, a lot of this is getting into like best practices. Obviously they're trying to push zero trust as a framework. So that way they have more than just your traditional defense in depth. That's what really has been going on for the last 40 years. And so in particular, zero trust is really changing the way that works, right? And again, back to what we were discussing about OT, that really becomes challenging because some of that model doesn't necessarily apply to OT. And so they have to do that really at transcription. Like that modernization allows them to, again, migrate into that new framework or that new paradigm.
Is zero trust, I know there's no silver bullet, but is that potentially something that is really going to make a huge difference as far as that interaction among different systems with different situations?
Yeah, so again, historically we've done 40 years of defense in depth. Just think of it like kind of like a moat in a castle, right? And as you can imagine, as AI is being pushed into the marketplace and being federated across, the various disciplines of the world, like that old standard isn't applicable, right? That's essentially just a hard outcore with a soft GUI center. So with zero trust itself as a framework, what it's saying is that's no longer good enough. Like we need to just, go ahead and presuppose that there's a threat actor in the environment, and we need to do steps in order to either mitigate that individual or that entity and figure out to control essentially the blast radius of that vulnerability. And that's essential, especially if you're talking about critical infrastructures, right? So if you can confine that threat actor, let's just say in a simple power supply at someone's house from a meter, right? Then that prevents that from doing a lateral movement into a grander system. So I think it's imperative that they start pivoting towards zero trust. Again, it's a framework, right? So not every framework is going to work with that industry, but I think that is an important measure going forward.
We have about 30 seconds left. You mentioned AI. What do you see as the potential best outcome of using AI in a cyber landscape like you just described?
What a great question. A lot of people focus on the negative outcome. So with the positive outcome, you're going to see more efficiency coming out of the SOC itself. So security operations, you're going to see a linking between the AI, right, and the individual. And through that, like dual power, essentially, you're going to have more remediation, faster remediation. And then ultimately, you have a better collection of intelligence as a result and presupposed actions to, eliminate these vulnerabilities at the get-go, which is vitally important. Again, for critical infrastructure, it's important to go ahead and look for those vulnerabilities before they're exploited. And I think through that combination of AI and cybersecurity practitioners, you'll start, identifying those vulnerabilities before potentially those threat actors. So it's a wonderful world to be in with these two emerging technologies.
It's great to have you on the program, Kind. Thanks for being here today. You can read more about cybersecurity and critical infrastructure on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, a big milestone for energy's Gen AI journey. FedGov Today continues in just a moment.
We're seeing that mission need lean on technology to force us to do things differently. And that's what we're really excited about, because we have a solution that allows you to see what's broken today. And so what is your cryptographic posture today? Where are my weaknesses? And then how do I actually solve those at the speed of software? And so that's very exciting for us. And that allows the warfighter, the operator to focus on the mission and not the security and stay at the mission classification level they're supposed to be at.
Leveraging artificial intelligence to get ahead of that and be able to sift through, parse out, filter the noise, so to speak, send that pertinent threat data, anomalies into that system, and then leverage things like AI agents to identify those threats in real time, not just identify them, but act on those threats in real time, ensuring that we're doing the best for our customers.
Welcome back. The Energy Department celebrating a milestone for its enterprise generative AI suite. Julix has hit the 20,000 user mark across 88 organizations at DOE. Bridget Carper-Arnone is Deputy Chief Information Officer for Architecture, Engineering, Technology, and Innovation at Energy. Bridget, welcome. It's great to have you back on the program. I have to ask about the name first, though. Julix is not intuitive to me about anything to do with AI. How'd you come up with that name?
We actually wanted to do an energy spin. So we were looking, initially it was AI Toolbox, and we were like, we don't build, we need something energy related.
It's also kind of boring.
It was, yeah. So I was like, doing a logo for that wasn't as fun. And so we started looking at measures of energy. And so that's where Julix came from.
What's incorporated in it, and how have you rolled it out to get to the scale that you've achieved now?
And so we started with Energy GPT. That was our chatbot starting in 2024, and we had 100 users at that time. And as we started to scale over the next year and a half, it was areas that were telling us things that was bothering them. So our human capital was position descriptions are difficult. We were getting a lot of the executive orders quickly. How does that relate to Department of Energy? So we did an EO Compass. And then everyone's like, hey, I have a team. We want to work on documents, but use AI. And so that's where we started doing our Canvas area. So the suite grew based on use cases that came in from the users that were leveraging Julix.
How did you evaluate the ones that came in to determine these are the ones we want to do something with? Maybe you had 3 buckets. These we're not sure about or we'll do later. These probably not. something we want to pursue?
A couple of areas. So one, we had like our governance board where our super users, we would check, would this benefit you? And we wanted to ensure it was enterprise-wide areas where there are some specifically ones where we're like, this could help one group, but we were trying to get at least 20-25% of DOE could leverage that tool before we would bring it into production.
You kind of, the 25% threshold, you kind of anticipated my next question, which is there a risk of asking the super users who might be in favor of something that really is only useful to super users? More casual users might be more hesitant to pick it up.
Our super users actually was covering headquarters, our labs, as well as our sites. So we thought it was a good mix. And then we would leverage internally. Like, is it something that OCIO would leverage or one of our large components would work on it?
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the labs. Is there an issue at all in rolling out some of these things agency-wide, given that the labs are not technically organizations within the Department of Energy, but they collaborate with you so closely?
Actually not. So they are very supportive. Again, when it was here last time, some of them already had started with chatbots, so they gave us some lessons learned. And because Julix is initially backed by Google, a lot of theirs was in OpenAI at the time. So we were able to compare the models and see like if this is something we would want to roll out. But we did have to like whitelist like some of their IPs, but technology-wise, because they still have like the government secure tokens and the CAC, we were able to have them authenticate to use it since it is in the DOE environment and not building the public model.
You wrote about Julix on LinkedIn. Julix connects to current web information with only a 20-hour delay. Why is that important, and why is that 20-hour delay kind of the sweet spot in your view?
Oh, our web grounding. That is like a huge milestone when the team got it because models were being updated every 9 months, every 12 months. And individuals wanted to be able to have the most recent information. So if we needed something that the White House stated on yesterday, we don't want to be able to say, okay, our information can't have the most valid data. So working on the web grounding, we were able to say, hey, it's 20 hours. Sometimes it's around like 18 or 16, but 20 is typically that time frame. So it helped adoption because now you don't need to use the public model when the DOE version is just as fast.
You've picked up more work since the last time you were on the show. You're also now performing the role of the Chief Data Officer at the Energy Department, and you told me before we went on the air about the little sister to Julix is what you called Quanta. What is Quanta, and how do those two things fit together to support the DOE mission?
Yes, so Quanta is our data and AI platform. And as we were going through, we realized that the AI models is only as good as the data. So our enterprise data strategy is around equipping and leveraging DOE data and some of the external sources we leverage. So Quanta, which is backed by Databricks, is our data platform. And so we have internal data sources that are public as well as non-public data. And we're able to pull in all the models. And so we have Anthropic, we have Google in there, we have OpenAI, we have open source Llama, so you can use that securely. And then if you're able to, again, wanted to use the web grounding, we have that architect as well. So having the thousands of data that DOE is known for to safely search and be able to give outputs, whether it's presentations or speeches, has been amazing. So the adoption, why it's the little sister that's probably going to grow up to be bigger than the brother, is we're at 4,900% adoption. So last October, we had 3 offices, myself, our CISO office, and then our Office of Electricity. And now we have 44 of the 88 department elements leveraging it with the plan to have everyone in by the end of the fiscal year.
What's driving that scale? Is it just demand signal, or are there other factors?
It's demand signal, but then we have like some of our leadership that is noticing, wait, if my team leverage Quanta, then the administrative aspects are being done more accurately and quicker, then they can focus on mission. And so that's one of the big areas of leveraging the technology like you do at home. You can quickly put it in here, get your answers. It has the style guide that DOE leverages. So your presentations already, they look good and they're accurate. You can move on to some of the other work.
We joked about Toolbox, and you said DOE doesn't really build things. Did you have to put any infrastructure together, though, to provide the underpinning for what we talked about with Júlix or Quanta, or did you just kind of have to put pieces together that you already had?
With Júlix, it was a little, again, we were building it as we went. We learned from Júlix with Quanta, where we were able to partner, still using our own environment, where we were using Google for Júlix, we're using AWS Commercial for Quanta. But again, our partners with Amazon and Databricks have been very helpful of streamlining. And then we have like a really strong team that's ready to go, and they're like open for that challenge. But the biggest piece is the integrations because of cybersecurity, ensuring that the data is being used for what we say it's going to use for, and working on that. So technology is very simple. Ensuring that it's safe and secure is the little harder part, but we've been doing those in parallel.
You talked about the importance of putting all of these pieces together. What are you doing moving forward to ensure that your data quality stays, the standards stay high, and that all of these pieces continue to work together well moving forward?
That's a really good question. We just had our data governance board last week, and those were some of the questions people asked, like, your enterprise data catalog now stands here, what's it going to look like in 6 months? And ensure that those best practices are still going across the board as we're scaling and modernizing other systems, ensuring that they are modern to the point where we can pull that data in and it's already standardized, so that we're decreasing that unstructured data, because now the tools that we're building are actually incapable of the mission.
We have about 30 seconds left. Are you having to go back and do anything with the unstructured data to structure it, or are you working through tools to try to just incorporate that as best you can in the state that it's in today?
The state it is. That's one of the joys of using Quanta. The data comes, if it's on paper, if it's in any unstructured format, they actually translate that. So what used to be like months is now like a few minutes for us to translate into something actionable.
Bridget, it's great to have you back on the show. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
You can read more about everything Bridget and I talked about on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today's back in just a moment.
As AI is brought into the enterprise, introduces a tremendous opportunity to scale in the face of that adversary, but it also requires some thoughtful decision-making to maintain public trust, to prevent unwanted change, and to treat systems in such a way that we're ahead of the threats to the systems themselves. AI is becoming critical infrastructure akin to the high-value assets and needs to be treated as such.
FedGov Today, in partnership with EY, is bringing you a groundbreaking new docuseries that asks that profound question. You'll get a deep dive into 4 distinct scenarios for the year 2030: growth, transform, constraint, and collapse, to help public sector leaders navigate the coming waves of change. Don't be caught unprepared. Watch the full series today at forfutures.ai. Welcome back. In just a few moments, a special FedGov Today program, the new episode of Defense Tech TV, presented by HII Mission Technologies. Leaders from the Navy's Rapid Capabilities Office, the Air Force, and HII will tell you what they see working on AI, acquisition acceleration, and more. You can watch it in just a few moments, 10:30 a.m. on ABC7, or you can watch it on demand at defensetech.tv. FedGov Today TV returns next Sunday morning at 10. I'm Francis Rose. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.